There's nothing like a freshly baked dessert from Grandma. Sure, you have the recipe, but no matter how hard you try, it just doesn't taste the same. I've been challenged to make one of those recipes, and after some trial and error, I've cracked the code for Scottish fruit slice, also known as currant cakes. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Let's Celebrate TV. I'm your host, Peter Lee. On this channel, we teach you all about celebrating. We show you recipes for food, hors d'oeuvres, cocktails, and we share entertaining tips too. We try and make it simple for everyone, especially those of you out there who say that you just can't do it, because we know you really can. So if you like this channel and you like this episode, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and watch a new episode every week. Our celebration today is a very special request. It comes from Kevin, Basic Filmmaker University. Now, if you want to start your own YouTube channel, I recommend you look him up, and we'll have a link to his site in the notes at the end of the show and on our comment section, like we always do. This recipe is called Scottish fruit slice. It's also known as a currant cake. Now, this was something he grew up eating, and he just couldn't remember how to do it. Fortunately, his mom, Joan, sent me her recipe, so I tried that. I made it a few times. It's delicious. But I've also made my own spin on it, so here we go. Let's get started. First thing we did was we preheated our oven to 350 degrees, standard. Now, I'm going to be using my favorite store-bought pie crusts. You know me, I'm not a baker. When I made Joan's recipe, I made the pie crust myself, and it's delicious. But I want to make this easy for everyone, and I really want you to make this recipe. So I'm using store-bought today. Let's put this aside. Let's talk about the filling for this cake or this fruit slice. We're going to be using currants. So in my bowl, I have a big bowl here, and I'm going to put in a whole currant. But what is a currant? These are currants. This is the type that I can get, Zante Currants. Now, these are actually made from a type of grape called a Currant grape, because here in America you can't get real currants like you can in other parts of the world, but this is really, really close. This is what they look like. See, they almost look like little tiny raisins, and they're just delicious. Little different flavor from raisins. Into the bowl. Every last one. They're pretty sweet, but we want to sweeten them up a little bit more. So I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Dump it right in, pretty easy. Pumpkin pie spice, a generous heaping tablespoon. Now this is going to add warmth and complexity because pumpkin pie spice is nutmeg and cinnamon and allspice. It's a combination of strong flavors that go really well with this. Right in. Butter, of course. I have a half a stick, which is a few ounces of butter, softened. Make sure it's very, very soft. So this is 4 tablespoons of butter. Right in. Now some recipes will call for soaking dried fruits like currants or raisins, which you could do, but that tends to wash the flavor away. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing this all together with the spices and the butter. The butter is going to take the place of soaking them. It's going to coat all of this fruit, and it's just going to make it luscious and help keep it moist and plump. Just takes a few minutes, a little patience, because it kind of gets stuck on your spoon, and that's okay. So when we were first researching this recipe, I reached out to my friend Sarah Robinson, who is from Scotland. And she was very excited, and she said, "Oh, I haven't made that for years." So I sent her some recipes and pictures, and she approved. So, Sarah, I'll send you some of these. All right, so this comes together pretty quickly. That's really it. It's really all you need to do is just mix it together. It's okay if you see a little bit of butter here and there. It doesn't matter. All right, so let's just put this aside. Okay, so we have cleared up the decks here. Our filling is aside. So let's start working on the pastry while the filling kind of sits and marries. I'm using, like I said, my favorite unrollable pie crust. Now I'm going to make these into little rounds. You can make them any size or shape you want. You could do rectangles or squares. You can make one big pie-shaped pastry, whatever you like. I'm using, and that meow is Salem the cat. I'm using a 5-inch bowl, and I'm just going to use it as a template on my crust to cut out some rounds, a top and a bottom crust. And see how easy it is. A bowl and a little sharp knife, and you get a perfect little circle. Now I get about 3 of these, actually exactly 3 of these out of one of these crusts. If you were more clever than I am, you could combine all the scraps and roll it out and get many, many more. So let's get rid of this and bring our filling back. I have several crusts here that I cut out earlier. We're going to assemble them, and I'll show you how easy it is. Right on our board here, we're going to need some filling. I like a generous ½ cup of filling. Scoop it in. That's about good. Right in the center. Now what I like to do is take my cup, smush it down a bit so it stays flat, and it gets out a little closer to the edges. You don't need it all the way, oops, but close. Second, crust right on top. It's pretty easy so far. Now, if you wanted, if your crust was being finicky, you could wet your finger with some water and run it around and glue it together. I don't think I'll need that today. We're just going to push it together for right now. And then we're going to take a fork and we're going to crimp the edges. Just like you do at Thanksgiving. Now, that couldn't be easier. Just go all the way around pretty quickly. And you have this little individual pastry. Yes, Salem, I know. He loves cooking. Okay, we turn that so you can see the last couple places. All right, and then right onto the board, I'll show you another one. That down. Looks like I'm going to have just enough here. Pack that in good. You know, with my impeccably clean hands. All right. Okay. Put this aside. Now the fun thing about this, there's one more name for this pastry that they use in Scotland, my friend Sarah tells me, and I'm going to be using it Halloween, so all of my Halloween friends. This is called Dead Fly Cemetery because they say the dried currants look like little dead flies, which is really kind of gross, but no less delicious. All right. And we just crimp away. Easy, easy peasy, right? And pretty quick to do. Okay, and I have an extra pastry. We'll just put that aside. So, we have to get this ready for the oven. We want these to be glorious and shiny. So I have an egg wash. Just a beaten egg with a little bit of water. Simple. My little pastry brush here. And you don't need a lot, just a little bit on top. This is going to make it shiny. It's going to, if you have any little cracks in your crust maybe, it'll seal them up. It'll help the crust stay together. You may have seen other chefs on TV doing this, and you wonder, what's that about? Well, that's why. You could also use milk or cream. I prefer egg. I find it works better. It's more consistent, actually. All right, now one more step before we go to the stove and the ovens. Add some sugar, just plain sugar. We're going to sprinkle this on top generously. What that sugar is going to do is it's going to melt while it cooks. It's going to caramelize and help it get even more golden brown. It's also going to form a very thin crust on top of that pastry, so you get an extra little crunch on it. All right, one more step. We have to prick some holes in it so that when these currants cook, the steam doesn't rupture the pastry and they explode all over. Simple, right? Okay, now I'm going to put these in the oven, 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes, or until they get golden brown. Now, that may vary a little bit in your oven. It may take 25 to 30, depending on your oven. How will you know? Well, they're going to be golden brown, but you're going to start smelling them when they're about ready to come out of the oven. So here we go. Here we are. Our pastries are out of the oven. It was 35 minutes to bake them, and then I let them cool for about 20 minutes or so. And look, they are just glorious. You see around the edges some of the sugar and butter caramelized. They're pretty sturdy, and you get some little caramel on the bottom too. They're lovely. But you know, before we taste these, I just want to show you how versatile this can be. You don't have to use currants. You can use any dried fruit that you like. Now, I've tried this with cherries, and it's delicious. Some recipes call for using raisins, which you could do, or dried cranberries, lovely. Next, I'm going to be experimenting with apricots. So I'll let you all know how that comes out. But what I found was use the same spices, same everything else, just change out the fruit, and it's delicious. So let's get to the favorite part, where I taste it for you. You know, I make these sacrifices for our loyal viewers. I'm just going to cut this in half. Ooh, look at that filling in there. Looks glossy and moist, and that crust is just perfect. So let me taste it for you. I'm just going to go right in. Wow, that's really, really good. These crusts are flaky. They have a tiny bit of sweetness from that sugar on top, and the filling inside is moist and rich and unctuous. It's just delicious, and that's from all that butter that we put in there too. A little coffee this time to wash it down. Now, this is something I want you to make, really, because currants are so different than what we're used to. So that's our recipe for today, guys. Thank you for joining us. Now, as always, we're going to have the recipe up in the comment section. And remember, we always respond. We read every single comment that you send us. We respond to them. We love hearing from you. We love the pictures. So we are also going to have up, besides this recipe, for all of you out there who are a little more adventurous when it comes to baking, I'm going to put Joan's original recipe up. If you want to try out the pastry and making them yourselves, then absolutely you'll be able to. So, as always, we will see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. when you come back, and come on in and let's celebrate. Cheers!